Welcome back to another edition of IQP Reflections. I'm joined by Matt Schreiner of the men's swimming and diving program. Matt, thanks for joining us.
No problem. Glad to be here.
So why don't you tell us about your IQP project?
So I did my project last year, 2019 in Copenhagen in a term, working on looking into social enterprises and what they do to combat climate change and how they can be more both socially and environmentally responsible.
Great. So Copenhagen, a term fall. How did you end up deciding that that was the place that you wanted to go to?
So when I started swimming here, a lot of the upperclassmen went to that specific site and they had a great time. So I had a lot of first person feedback on just the overall experience and the project site. And the Copenhagen site specifically focuses pretty heavily on environmental issues with a lot of its projects, just because of how environmentally conscious Denmark is as a whole. So that was a bit of a driving factor as well.
And then for those of you that don't know swimming and diving, you guys start practice middle of September, your competition late October. So that A term is, it's either A or D term, not to really interrupt your season. Is that correct?
Yes, definitely.
And we don't have a ton of sites A term, but we've added more. And then, so your IQP, excuse me, your ID 2050 was a D term. Is that correct?
Yes.
So what's that like? A lot of times for all the other terms, they'll do their ID 2050 and then leave almost right away when they're done. You got to wait a summer. What's that like? First off, explain the ID 2050 to people. Explain the little bit of a gap, if that's good, bad, or indifferent for your particular case.
So ID 2050 was it's a preparatory class for the project. So you do a lot of your background research as much as you can ahead of time, and you create a proposal for what you want to do for the project. And that was the first time I'd done a large piece of writing, more than 5 to 10 pages. So, and the first time writing a paper in a group. So that was definitely a good experience to help prepare me for writing the actual IQP project. Having the summer in between, I think, was actually helpful because it wasn't as stressed for time. We had the whole summer to make small adjustments and make sure that we're prepared for actually getting to IQP, whereas other terms, if you only have a few days or a week, there's not as much time to prepare.
So let's fast forward, or actually rewind, and go back to your first day. So do you remember stepping off the plane, or do you remember arriving at your site? What's your first vivid memory of your IQP project?
So I went with my family a week early. We took the opportunity to go on a quick vacation because they had never been to Denmark, so they wanted to see it as well. So I have a lot of memories of just going around with them. I think my first memory of the project was checking into the residences that we use every year, 9 small homes, and starting to, I guess, not meet the people on the trip because I'd been in ID 2050, but seeing them there and being able to catch up after not seeing them all summer. And it was definitely an otherworldly experience. Just kind of, I think that's when reality kind of set that I was going to be there for a long period of time, actually moving into this apartment building and being able to see the neighborhood.
What was it? So what you got working on the IQP project? What was a typical day for you like?
So my group specifically was working primarily out of a local university, Aarhus University. So my typical day, I'd get up between 8 or 9, have some food, and then bike over there around 10. And it was a 15-20 minute bike ride. super easy just because of all of the specific bike pathways they have throughout the entire city. They have their own stoplights, everything. So it's a lot safer and easier than trying to bike around any of the cities here. And then we would work until lunch, just together, usually just like at one table, go get lunch together, come back, work until we had as much done as we had planned to get done for the day, and then we would go home, which usually was still fairly early, 3 or 4. Plan out what we want to do for dinner, and then there's time pretty much every night, at least for the first 2/3 of the trip, to go explore, find something fun to do. Later in the trip, it changed a lot for our group because we started conducting a lot of interviews. So we spent more time just traveling around the city. We took a few train rides across the bay to Sweden to do some interviews over in Malmö. And yeah, so that was pretty much it. And then a couple times a week, I'd get up a little bit earlier to try to stay in shape, do some running, some swimming.
Were you able to swim?
I was. There's a pool that I was able to get access to.
Great. What were some of your best memories of the trip?
Honestly, just exploring. It's such a walking and bike friendly city. So just going out with some of my apartment mates and friends that I met through the IQP program and just kind of exploring a new city, finding new places to eat, new places to hang out.
This is a very individual question, I guess. It sounds like you enjoyed it. Are you the type of person that will go back later in life because
Absolutely.
you enjoyed it, or is it off to the next adventure?
I definitely want to go back, and I want to bring other people so I can show them around. Yeah, I love the city. It's a really cool place. So no question, I'm going back.
And it sounded like you really enjoyed your group. You want to talk about your group real quick?
Yeah, so my group worked fantastically together. Me, Colin Touchette, Fiona Doyle, and Christina Frenny. We just had a great dynamic. We never had any problems working together, so it made the whole project go very smoothly. And then being able to just kind of hang out with the people that you work with is also very nice. And my apartment was great too. A bunch of great guys to socialize with outside of work hours.
And that's such an important piece of the WPI experience, is the project, is that particularly the IQP project. It sounds like it met your expectations.
Absolutely.
Matt, thanks for sharing this reflection. We really appreciate it.
It's been great.